So welcome to my first live. This is quite exciting and also a little bit terrifying at the same time. But welcome to my kitchen, and we have a really exciting thing that we want to do together, which is basically the first ever cooking concepts of the month. Every Rosh Chodesh, Chodesh Tov, first of all, to everyone. It is now officially Rosh Chodesh, which is the first of the Jewish month of tonight, Tammuz. So I want to welcome and wish everyone a Chodesh Tov, which basically means happy month to all, and tie in a little bit of the ideas. Rosh Chodesh is a special time to connect and to sort of find meaning in what that time allows for, and we would like in the cooking concepts of the month to bring it into the kitchen and how it applies to our food. And this is a really hard month. I just want to say it's a really hard month for me to be starting this as a thing, because it's not like right before Hanukkah where there's latkes to make, and it's not like right before Rosh Hashanah where we can tie in all the sweet stuff. Tammuz is sort of a sad month. So just a little bit about the month. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. The name Tammuz itself is a hint. It's basically a little hint of what the month is about, because the Jewish months are in the Torah referred by number. So it's actually known as the fourth month. That's the name of the month in the Torah. It's the fourth month. But Tammuz, we call it Tammuz because Tammuz was actually the name of a Babylonian idol that we fell to worshiping. It basically led to our downfall. So basically, our calling the month of Tammuz is a hint toward, unfortunately, the whole calamitous bunch of events that lead to our eventual destruction leading up to Tisha B'Av in Av. So it's sort of a little bit of a nod to a little bit of a more low-key time. Also, the zodiac sign of Tammuz is the crab. Now you're thinking, well, she can't make crab tonight, so I don't really know how she's going to tie that one in. I'm not going to make crab because it's not kosher. But crabs, what do they have to do with the month of Tammuz? The zodiac signs often give a little hint to what the general time of the month is. The zodiac sign of the crab alludes a little bit to the fact that what do crabs do? They pinch, they hurt. And that's sort of what happened to us during the month of Tammuz. We as a people were hurt, and it wasn't so much fun. So how do we turn that around? How do we take that and learn a lesson from it? And how do we actually think about it a little bit in terms of what we're going to make tonight? Also, by the way, it's also summertime that represent crabs because they multiply a lot in the hot weather. And it is hot weather, which means that we should do something light and refreshing, and that's what we're going to do. We can't do crab because it's not kosher, but we can do mock crab. And so we are going to be making tonight something light as a summer lunch entree. Could be a snack for you also. I think that it's a great solution to not getting your kitchen very, very hot. We are going to be making a mock crab salad, easy to put together, no cook, because believe it or not, mock crab is already cooked, so you don't have to worry about pre-cooking your fish or using raw crab or raw ingredients like salmon, for example, that might spoil in the heat. It's already cooked. That is what, if you're wondering what mock crab is, it's actually a process known as surimi, which is a Japanese process where they basically press and mold and season white fishes like pollock and whitefish into shapes and tastes that resemble lobster, crab, all different kinds of shellfish. It saved their economy in Japan because of the huge demand for shellfish, and they needed that supply. But for us, it's a win-win because we get to do all kinds of fun things with it that resemble crab or other kinds of shellfish. So it's totally a cooked product. It's processed, and so that actually lends for a good picnic item. You can take it along and not worry as much about it being raw. We have mock crab here. We have avocado. We have some fresh diced peaches that I just cut up, some scallion, and some mint from my garden, which we're going to all combine together, and we're going to be putting it together in a radicchio cup. For those of you who don't know what radicchio is, it looks like almost like a little purple cabbage, and it's sort of petite, and it looks really cute and tight. I've actually removed some of the outer leaves already from it. What I like to do with it is I like to separate those leaves, and then I like to use them to stuff and fill for a beautiful appetizer or lunch presentation, and you can fill them up as a cup. The one thing you have to know though about radicchio, and I have a little bit of a confession to make about it, is that it's quite bitter. You have to do things to temper the bitterness of the radicchio, and we're going to do that with what we are putting in it today. And I have a few other suggestions for you as well as how to treat it and temper it in terms of the bitterness, how to balance it all, and bring out the best from it so that you're not left thinking, wow, that's really bitter, because sometimes it really is. So I've separated the leaves from the head, and you can do so at home just by gently giving a little tug. Some of you might be wondering, how do I check radicchio? Is it like the other greens? Yes, I would treat it like the other greens, but the good news is that I've noticed that the more bitter the greens are, the less, just like fewer people want to eat bitter greens, also fewer pests want to eat bitter greens. So I find that there's much fewer bugs and pests attacking the more bitter of the greens, so it's a little bit easier to check, and I don't usually frequently find that many things eating it. Oops. If it's too tight toward the core, you might tear like that. But you should be able, and also those inner leaves get smaller and smaller and more petite. So I would say that's more of like an appetizer size, whereas one of the outer leaves that I first took off was pretty hefty and much larger in size. So you can choose for yourself which size you want to use. But we're going to be filling these with our mock crab mixture. And I'm also going to show you how to put together a really nice lime cilantro dressing to just bring it all together. Here, this is from my garden. It's fresh mint. If you're ever working with fresh herbs, just a really easy way to get the leaves off, hold from the top and pull down. And that is a really nice and simple way, oops, I'm just gonna rip off those top ones and give them a little bit of a chop, finally. And we're going to add that in to the rest of those ingredients. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that fresh mint just really makes the peach sing out. Very nice and flavorful, okay? So let's bring in that avocado. You're gonna see how fast this comes together, especially when I've chopped it beforehand for you. Isn't that nice of me? Some peaches, some scallion, and that's pretty much it for this part, right? This is our main component. I'll give it a little stir, but ultimately I'm going to be tossing it with our dressing. So let's talk a little bit about our dressing. You can do it by hand, you can do it in your food processor. You can do it with an immersion blender also, and that will also work to bring it together. This is going to be mainly flavored, very like robust, vibrant kind of a dressing, using lime as your main acid, but it's going to give a little bit also of creaminess to your salad, because we are making it a little bit creamy with some mayonnaise. You could also use sour cream if you wanted it to be dairy, but you get most of your flavor from...
Oh, someone has a question.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just repeat what you have in the bowl now?
Sure. There's mock crab, 1 avocado, 2 peaches, 2 scallions, and a whole handful of mint. But you can buy mint at your store unless you want to come to my backyard and pick some. But I have some growing, and so why not? It's the summertime. And it's sort of like, I feel like it's almost like a sin if you don't plant something in your backyard, because it grows so easily in the summer and it's so expensive at the store. Using my microplane, I'm just swiping back, okay, and that's about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of lime zest. We're going to throw this right into the food processor, just make quick work of it, and give these guys a little bit of a roll to break up the membranes. Whoops, it's rolling away from me. Okay, and
what kind of mint did you use?
What kind of mint? I think it is just a general like spearmint. There's a lot of varieties I know, but really anything would be good with this. And you know, if you wanted to change up the herbs and the herbal profile of what we're doing, I'm using cilantro because I feel like it goes really well with the little bit tropical feel of the salad. But if you wanted, you could also change it up completely and use basil if that's what you have growing in your garden. It's sort of flexible that way. We're going to just put in about 2 limes worth of juice. That's about 1/4 cup. Okay, I'm not measuring, but that's about the measure. And if you can, please use fresh lime. It just makes a huge difference. My food processor is really big, so I actually have to use the inner bowl because we're doing a small amount. And my large 14 cup capacity just sort of takes too long with small amounts. So you sort of have to know what your appliances are and use it appropriately. If you like using your immersion blender, go for it. If you have a big cup, also makes very fast work of it. So that is 2 limes. And what else are we going to put in there? I have here, again, since I'm trying to play off of the tropical ingredients that we're using, so I have here also a jalapeno, okay, if you like a little kick. For those of you who are like, oh my gosh, not only is it going to be bitter from the radicchio, but also spicy from the jalapeno, just wanted to show you I'm only using half, and I have taken the seeds and ribs out of this half, which I'm going to put in there because the seeds and the ribs are really what contains the most heat of the pepper. So you're really just going to get more flavor than heat, but a little zing is not a bad thing. This is cilantro. Again, for those who don't like cilantro, some people complain it has a soapy taste and they don't love it. You know, feel free to mix up your herb profiles, but I'm going to put in about a 1/4 cup packed. I measured this before. This was about a 1/2 cup packed. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to put in about a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin. And let's also put in about a tablespoon of honey, just for a touch of sweetness. Some kosher salt, always kosher salt please guys, because kosher salt is easy to grab, easy to season with, and has great flavor. Okay, for those of you who are saying, how much are you using? I will say enough. You're gonna say, no, please give me a measurement, and then I'm going to say, okay, fine, start with a 1/2 teaspoon, work from there, and see what it tastes like when you're done. You can always add more, you can't take it away. Some freshly ground black pepper. And let's not forget our mayonnaise, which is going to give it a creaminess. Why am I doing creamy as opposed to just a regular vinaigrette? And the reason is because of what I was trying to allude to before, which is let's find those ways of tempering the bitterness of the radicchio, right? So, just a few hints. Let's just get rid of that cup.
We have a question.
Yep.
White or pink kosher salt? Can't tell with the lighting.
Regular white kosher salt.
And also, can you post this afterwards in the recipe?
Absolutely, we'll be posting recipe afterwards. I already started writing it out. I'm on my game today. So, a little bit of mayonnaise because the creaminess will help cut the bitterness of the radicchio. Much like, by the way, what are some other suggestions of what you can do with that bitter leaf to cut the bitterness? Cheese, okay, like a hard pecorino or a hard cheese. That richness and creaminess from the cheese will end up cutting the bitterness a little bit of the radicchio. You can also play it another way. Not just the creaminess of mayonnaise, also the creaminess or richness of egg. So for example, I once made a shaved radicchio, sieved hard-boiled egg, cherry tomato, breadcrumbs, beautiful dish. Okay, and that also works to cut it. Let's put this on and get this going. We have all our ingredients, except I'm also going to add a few tablespoons of olive oil because I don't want it only creamy, I want to also thin it with the oil. I'm going to just put my food processor on low. There it goes. And as it's going, I'm just going to add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. If I felt it needed it, I could always add more. And you want to just pulse it or basically puree it until the leaves are chopped and it's emulsified. Emulsified means what? Means that all that fat and acid are blended together well, so they won't separate. And let's take a look and see what this looks like. Got some big pieces got stuck on top. Always check your food processor, make sure that nothing gets stuck on the sides. We can always let it rip one more time. And if anybody wants a little bit more of a zing, you can always add some garlic to that as well. I did not, but you totally can.
They want to know what kind of food processor you have.
This is a little bit of a conflicting question. I don't want to badmouth any brand. It happens to be, I was a KitchenAid girl for my whole marriage, and I loved my KitchenAid food processor. This is the newer model KitchenAid food processor. And I'm not going to say anything bad, but I'm not 100% happy, so I don't want to promote it completely because I have certain design flaw issues I'm taking to task with it. Generally, I would say the more smaller size, this is a very large model, it's a 14 cup, you'll probably have better success with a smaller capacity machine if you're going with the KitchenAid. That advice I can give you. And also, if you want a different brand, Cuisinart is also very good. Cuisinart, if you really want to spend a lot of money and go for like the Rolls Royce of food processors, RoboCoupe, which is a professional machine, is phenomenal. And if you get one and you want to buy me one, that's also fantastic because it's a great machine. Anyway, let's take a look at how it looks. We're going to taste it, season it to taste. But since we did a smaller amount, you see, with my big machine, I put in the insert bowl. And it's not thin, it's not a thick dressing is my point, and that's good because I don't really want it to be. So let's take this out. I'm going to take a little taste. Let me just grab a spoon. See what it tastes like. Always taste, always season and taste, people. That's yummy. It's good. Got a little piquant kick from the lime, and it's going to do just fine with our salad here. So, if you want to start by tossing it with half and then adding the rest, you can, especially if you're weight conscious. But I always start with half dressing because I don't want anything to be drenched more than it has to be. I don't like wet salads. So what I'm going to do is I'll start with half my dressing, see how it looks, and then I can always add more. So let's take this away so you can see. Don't forget, this is going in your cups, in your radicchio cups, so if you really overdress it, then what you will end up having is very, very wet cups. And it gets very soggy that way, so we don't want that.
Can you mention again what the commercial brand of the food processor was?
The professional brand, yeah?
Yeah.
RoboCoupe, RoBotCoup. You might go into sticker shock, but if you are going into professional food service, it is quite a machine, that I will say. Putting just a little bit more. Oops. Now, how are we going to finish this beautiful, beautiful little lunch entree of ours? Everything's about texture, okay? We spoke about contrasting the ridiculous bitterness. We're also going to need a contrast with texture. We have a little bit of bite from the mock crab. Real shellfish has a little bit of a bite to it. We have, it's mostly soft items though, right? So we want something that has a crunch. You need some kind of crunch factor to balance the texture. And other contrasts, in case you haven't realized, are also color contrasts. Flavor contrasts, bitter versus sweet peach. And we're going to have soft versus some crunchy nuts on top. I know a lot of recipes will call for toasting nuts, and I don't need a show of hands, but if anybody is thinking to yourself at home who's watching this thinking, do I really have to toast my nuts? You don't have to, okay? You don't have to toast your nuts, but if you do, it's gonna be awesome, okay? Because over here, this is what's left of what my daughter didn't totally scarf down and finish, because toasted nuts are awesome. You see the nice color I got on these? These are cashews. Go low and slow with toasting nuts, otherwise they burn in a second. But what happens is that all those natural essential oils just come back to life, and it just refreshes the nut and brings out all the nuttiness and the flavor, and it's amazing. And it also makes it a little crunchier. So yes, toast your nuts if you can, and don't worry, because you could do like a bigger batch and then have them in a little, sealed container for 1 or 2 weeks. So even if you don't have time to do it every day, those toasted nuts will stay nice and vibrant for at least a week or 2. And just do little batches like that. Then chop them up as you need. I'm going to grab me a plate here. I toasted these before and chopped up those nuts here. These are going to be our final textural component. So let's assemble, let's get this garbage out of the way, and let's assemble one of these cups and see what this looks like. Pick some pretty ones, some small ones. Okay. Oh, I think I picked the one that had the hole. Okay. Now, by the way, if you have a small little container, you probably could take these on a picnic to the park, and that would be really cute. If you're wondering, is it messy? It's a bit messy for the park, but, whoops, you could sort of wrap it up a little bit. That's the beauty of a big leaf like this. So we have one, oops, we have two, and my kitchen is totally cool and not hot at all. So just to recap, what have we learned from this little exercise for Rosh Chodesh?
We have a question here.
Oh yeah, what's the question?
Have you ever sauteed your nuts and then put them on top?
Well, you can actually, you can dry toast your nuts in the pan just the same way you would in the oven. And that is just as effective as toasting your nuts in the oven. But you don't have to put any oil or anything, just do it dry in your pan and that will work just fine. And you'll smell them refreshing. You'll smell the aroma, you'll smell them refreshing and get a little color on them. And that works really well. And it doesn't take any longer, by the way. The only difference is just that you're going to be standing over it. But other than that, okay. So now we have a few different size little cups here, and let's sprinkle with a little bit of those cashews. And what I was going to say before is what we learned from this is you can take a tragedy that's befallen us, like in Tammuz, and that's bitter, or something that causes us pain. And we can take a look at that and still find a way to make it sweet and to make it flavorful and to make it something that we can benefit from and gain from. So I guess that's our lesson of the month for Tammuz. And also, that is our lesson of the month in our kitchen for how to make a really nice little lunch entree or snack, or for me, it's 9 o'clock. I'll eat this for dinner. And do it without getting your kitchen hot in July. In and out. And I hope you enjoyed. So if you did enjoy, then what'd you say? Oh, I want to thank you. Thanks for all tuning in. And I hope you'll tune in again for next month's cooking concept of the month. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to private message me or to post. And I will try to get this recipe up ASAP. Have a great night, guys.